Boom! Carnell Greedy James, class of 2027, a defensive back prospect out of Manville, Texas, down in the Houston area, has committed to the University of Texas. He becomes the second Longhorn commitment for not the 2026 class that just signed on Wednesday, but for the class of 2027. Defensive back 6'1", 175, Gerry Hamilton, CJ Vogel. I'm Bobby Burton. We're going to talk about and watch a little bit of Carnell Greedy James. He visited Texas over the weekend for the Texas A&M game. CJ, you got a chance to see him down there on the field at the Texas game. You've seen his highlights. What you thinking here of Carnell Greedy James?
Yeah, I like the addition. I got to chat with him very briefly. Look, he's a good kid, comes from a good family, and I think more importantly than any of that, he got to sit in and watch multiple true freshmen for the Texas Longhorns playing a big-time rivalry game against Texas A&M. Of course, the atmosphere was fantastic. He and his family made the trip over from Manville. They had been on campus before, but now they got to sit under the lights and watch that rivalry in person. And here we are, only about a week later. He's making the decision to join the Texas 2027 class. But versatile kid, what is he, about 6 foot, 6'1", 170 pounds. But versatile, good athlete, and Gerry, I know that we talked about it a little bit earlier before we went live. Very physical as well.
Yeah, I think he's a very physical player. I think that's the number one thing I'm looking for is are you physical enough for the SEC conference? Because everybody talks about the line of scrimmage league, and it is, but you have to be a very physical player in the secondary in this league. You have to be able to play the run. You have to be able to play against bigger athletic wide receivers. That means you have to be able to go up and battle for the ball in a physical way because sometimes it's hard to even get a flag thrown on you in this league at times. So physicality is a big part of this. I think he has some versatility too. Obviously plays a lot of safety. You see that's against ball high. He plays really good competition in the Houston area, by the way. He's in a tough district that has Pearland, Dawson, Shadow Creek, Chris Stewart School. He plays against some really talented athletes in that district, and he more than answered the bell. He had big games against Pearland. They lost that game. He had a big game against Pearland. He had a big game against Dawson, a rivalry game. He had a solid game against Summer Creek in the first-round playoff loss. You can't look at the score. Summer Creek's really, really good. But a guy that had 53 tackles, 2 interceptions this season in 11 games after 31 tackles and an interception as a sophomore. But again, I like – he has really good foot quickness. I think he has change of direction skill, which gives him range. But I love his physicality. I mean, he'll drop people on contact, Bobby, whether that's running backs. He comes up with run force in the run game. I think that gives him a chance to be a really good player in the SEC because you got to be physical.
Hey, Gerry, the teams that recruited him, among them are a bevy of SEC schools, including in-state rival Texas A&M.
Yeah, his SEC offer list of guys, and look, it was early. This is an early commitment, but A&M, Florida, Missouri were among his offers there. Texas A&M, obviously Vanderbilt, which actually they do a good job on secondary kids in Texas, and Vanderbilt quietly. Carter, the safety for them, is from Cibolo Steel. Their GM, Barton Simmons, does a really good job with defensive backs. He always has. Bobby and I used to work with him. But he also had Texas Tech, which is an early offer for him, as well as TCU, Iowa. They know a little bit about defensive backs at Iowa too, by the way. Arizona State, which obviously Brian Carrington was a former Texas staffer, recruits the Houston area for Arizona State, has done a really good job plucking quality defensive backs out of Texas that start for Arizona State and started on that playoff team last year. So he had to offer some really good evaluators early on. Utah, another one, Morgan Scalley, has done really good work in the secondary over the years in the state of Texas. So he had those right offers early on from some of the really good evaluators that evaluate the state and have pulled some really good defensive backs out of the state of Texas in recent years.
Yep. Gerry and CJ, next point I wanted to make, and we talked about this. Texas is not a team that really pushes the pressure level on kids early. Steve Sarkisian's been one of those that, hey, I want to get to know you guys, you and your family. I want to make sure that Texas is the right fit for you. So they don't push really for these early commitments. The ones that commit typically are ones that want to be Longhorns long-term. But at the same time, you see teams like A&M, like Oklahoma, that have been pushing for early commitments in 2027. This could be a little bit of a change, not necessarily a big one, but a small one for Texas to maybe try to get a couple of commitments before the junior days coming up in January for the Longhorns. CJ, what do you think about this move for Texas? This now bringing them to 2 commitments in the class of 2027 to join Easton Royal, the wide receiver out of New Orleans, Brother Martin High School.
Yeah, definitely. You're onto something there, Bobby. And looking back even a year ago to the 2026 class, it was only Dia Bell and Chris Stewart, who both committed in June, by the way, who had been, publicly committed to the Texas Longhorns ahead of March, whenever the calendar flipped. So Texas went a long time. And again, they like their blueprint for building classes. They like going through the junior days, going on the road, evaluating once again, just seeing kids in person to get final wingspans, measurements, whatever it might be. And of course, seeing them move in person once more. So it's interesting. And Bobby, to steal a word from you, I pontificated even whether or not that the calendar of the recruiting cycle itself was moving up a little bit, given what Ohio State and A&M and Oklahoma had already done, all up about 8-9 kids in their class at the moment. So early take, but that tells you that Texas likes him quite a bit. That secondary staff watched his tape and say, yeah, we can work with him. We like him. Obviously, getting on campus and seeing him in person only solidified that as well.
Gerry, what do you think about that? You think Texas is moving in that direction deliberately at this point?
I think they are a little bit, because Sark's never going to change. I don't think the philosophy, but I do think with A&M and Texas Tech going to hyper speed, you have to respond in some way, right? You can't, not that your hand is forced, not that you're copying anybody, but I do think there's certain things that happen in recruiting that do kind of shift what you're doing a little bit. And I think Texas need to create some momentum headed into January in this class a little bit, because, CJ mentioned, we've talked about it. Look, Oklahoma has 10 commits, a few guys from Texas. A&M has 7, a lot of guys from Texas, so a few guys from Texas. So there's some teams that are really trying to get ahead in 27. So I think you do need to create some momentum headed into your January recruiting on the trail for the staff, because they will be out and about headed into junior day in January. So I do think it's not that they're copying. I think they're responding, because you do have to keep those schools from grabbing all the early momentum.
Is it too early, in your opinion, Gerry and CJ, to say this kid's a 5-star, a 4-star, a 3-star? I mean, he's just now finished his junior season. Clearly, he's highly recruited, though, based on the teams that have offered him. Have we really gotten to where we're going to start labeling kids this early, that highly, or where's he at as far as the ranking is concerned, Gerry?
Yeah, I mean, he's a high 3-star player for people. For me, with the junior class, I always like to see multiple sports. What are they doing?
When you say high 3-star, you mean in the industry rankings, right?
Yeah.
1, 3, and
I want to see what some of these guys do on the track, right?
Yeah.
What do the football speed? Like, I do think Greedy James, junior tape, he looks more athletic than sophomore tape, but that could be a natural progression for a kid as well. But I like to see what these guys do in multi-sports. I think that's a big part of this. Bobby, how many times do you go watch a lineman play basketball?
Yeah,
That tells you something that even the tape doesn't tell you. So I know in our industry, we keep getting earlier and earlier and earlier with rankings, which boxes people into corners with some kids that are ranked high early that maybe should fall more. Doesn't leave as much room for some kids to move up like they should. But I really want to see, like with Carnell James, what does his track look like this spring? Does his track times drop considerably from sophomore to junior year? I think some of those are the things that I'm looking at with some of these guys. And what do they do? Look, we have Under Armour camps coming up. Those are laser 40 times. If you go drop a fast time at an Under Armour camp, you're a fast human being, because most of these guys don't really know how to start and get in the right stance and run a 40. You never know whether they were up late the night before or whatnot. They're not training for this. So if a guy rolls out to an Under Armour camp and puts up like if Carnell James went out and ran a 4.5 flat and laser and ran a 4.15 shuttle, that guy's going to go up in rankings, because people are going to look at that and say, wow, that's a top 1 percentile top 2 percentile, some testing numbers at these Under Armour camps. There aren't many guys running sub 4.5 at these camps. So I think that's big for me, is the kind of the continued evaluation of these guys as they continue to grow as athletes and players too.
Gerry and CJ, ask you one more question. Gerry, stay with you. Final thoughts on the commitment of Carnell Greedy James out of Manville to the University of Texas.
I think there's two things. One, physical player. And I think that is a requirement in the SEC. Everybody thinks trenches, but you have to be physical, period, in this league. And I think, two, Houston area. Because when Sark came into Texas initially, Jimbo and A&M were owning the Houston area in recruiting. And there's been an extra effort by Texas to win some big recruitments, be more active in the Houston area. And I think I like that one of the early 27 commitments is from the Houston area, same district as Chris Stewart. That's a very talented area of Houston. You have Iowa Colony, you have Shadow Creek, you have Pearland, you have Manville, you have Dawson. Those are in Crawford, the new Fort Bend school, which kind of spills over to the Arcola area. So those are some really talented areas of Houston. And I do think that's worth mentioning as well, that he's a commitment out of the Houston area.
CJ, your final thoughts?
Yeah, high character kid, comes from a good family. I think, again, to your point, Gerry, that's a good program down there at Manville. You see him posting pretty often his workout clips. Kid likes to work. He brings physicality. He's a good athlete. Put all that together, I think you got a kid with a long runway of future development. But this is a great take right now for Texas to get in on the ground floor, while, as you talked about, a number of other kids across the state are being picked off. This is a good one to get in the bag.
All right, that's going to do it. Congratulations to Carnell Greedy James out of Manville, defensive back, commitment number 2 in this class of 2027. Again, not the one that just signed, but the one that's coming up a year from now. And one final word for you, Greedy. Hook 'em horns, buddy.
Hook 'em.